Nerdrotic.com.
Yes, I'm one of the rare idiots who sat down and watched all of Santa Inc. Yes, all 190 minutes spread out over a few days. No, I'm not getting any younger, and 190 minutes off of my life has some value to me anyway, so hopefully some good will come out of this. Hopefully it will prevent you from wasting any of your time on it, just in case you're curious to see how bad it really is. It's that bad, and I don't mean good bad, bad in the worst way. Now, when I first saw the trailer, I thought it was a gag that ran a bit too long. In the trailer, I thought it was just an hour special. That's why I was very surprised to find out that it's 8 episodes.
Oh, hell no!
8 episodes of pure garbage, spite, subversion for subversion's sake, and hate. Yes, this is a show made by people who hate Christmas for people who hate Christmas. Who the hell hates Christmas? If you hate Christmas, you're the joyless son of a motherless goat. Santa Inc. stars the voices of Seth Rogen and Sarah Silverman, 2 comedians past a prime they never really had. 2 douchey middle-aged hipsters trying to produce comedy for people who wouldn't laugh even if they remembered how.
I would rather watch an R-rated animated Christmas comedy with a touch of a feminist agenda.
That's right, Santa Inc. is a feminist comedy, and I can hear you right now, and I totally agree. There's no such thing as feminist comedy. It's called complaining.
Which is actually a good joke. Take notes.
I'm no prude. Team America is one of my favorite movies and a great example of what raunchy comedy could be when you actually have talent. I have a lot of respect for the art form of comedy, be it raunchy, slapstick, or introspective. It requires immense talent, something that wasn't present at all, not for a single nanosecond in this show. What's Santa Inc. about? Well, it's about bringing down the patriarchy, because we haven't seen that before in Hollywood over the last few years, and it's about replacing another established white male character with a Jewish elf named Candy. And here's the biggest problem with this series. Candy is voiced by Sarah Silverman, not exactly the voice of an angel. More like the voice of a hyena dying in the act of mating. Now, it's no secret, because most of my friends have made videos on this, that this is the worst reviewed television show of the year by far. We all know YouTube recently removed the public dislike count from all the videos on this platform to protect small creators like Disney, the White House, and Warner Brothers. But at least for the time being, you can add a Chrome extension and still see them. And currently, Santa Inc. stands at 170,000 plus dislikes. It's rated 1.1 out of 10 on IMDB. It has a 4% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, and no professional critics or shills have bothered to review it except for Variety. The well-known white supremacist outlet thrashed it. Seth Rogen and Sarah Silverman can't save Santa Inc. from misguided raunchiness. Variety goes on to try to seriously review this, although they don't break it down either, because honestly, there's nothing to break down. It's a bunch of pointless gags that basically set up leftist talking points.
More American kids believe in you than they do in vaccines or the Holocaust.
That's great. I mean, disheartening for America, but great for us.
But they say the juxtaposition of the admittedly gaudy trappings of a season of joy and Santa Inc.'s calculated raunchiness tend to feel less irreverent than attention-seeking in a way that sheer joke writing can't justify. And I have to admit, I'm probably as surprised as the makers of this show that the one critic who took this on said this: not every topic lends itself to subversion, really, or showing off how little one cares about property. But those moments of reduced freneticism felt too infrequent on a show whose interest in its subject matter seemed to extend as far as to how to establish a sufficiently cool distance from it. Again, I did watch the entire series. I might have lost my concentration, quite a bit while watching it, and it was a total waste of time. It's not worth breaking down, getting into the ins and outs. It is a, at best, 30-second gag stretched out over 8 episodes. It is the worst I have ever seen. And one of the main reasons is, and yes, I feel silly getting into the details of this show, is the titular character, Candy Smalls, is just utterly unlikable as Sarah Silverman.
Google You've had 20 minutes to.
Her unlikability only slightly surpasses the general unlikability of every single character in this show, right down to Mrs. Claus, who we spend a lot of time on in the very boring second half of this series in her loveless marriage with Santa Claus. Candy Smalls has two friends, Cookie and Goldie, who are both annoying as hell. Cookie is the Karen of the show.
I don't ever sleep because for some reason I wanted to be a wife and mother.
And Goldie wants to be the first female reindeer pulling Santa's sleigh, which I guess there could be some comedy there, but it wasn't tapped into, and the same could be said for the entire series. All the male characters are just lame, and Santa Claus is a douchebag.
Together, we are gonna burn this mother to the ground!
There is no reverence for the holiday whatsoever. It is just pure hate. There were opportunities to be funny, like reindeers on meth. They just weren't. And they had Peter Rabbit, voiced by Patton Oswalt, to round out the overall cringe of this entire show. He had a daughter who had thousands of abortions.
My body, my choice.
Amen, woman.
That's right, rabbits having abortions, and instead of using, I don't know, a punchline or an actual gag, they just used it so Candy could say my body, my choice, which is awfully funny because Sarah Silverman has spent the last year telling people to get the jab. But what this story does have is the staple of modern woke intersectional feminist writing. Constant, and I mean constant, positive affirmation for our main character and positively affirming herself.
I'd be nothing without you. You are a f***ing rock star.
I assumed you knew I was infamously one of the most fun people who's ever existed. Even penguins think I'm funny. And you guys are right, I rule. I'm actually pretty good.
She's got a big mouth, but she's not kidding.
Where the whole thing falls apart, well, it pretty much never was together because this thing is just a total mess. But our main character, Candy Smalls, wants to be Santa Claus, and nowhere in this series over the 8 episodes are you convinced that she likes Christmas or even kids. Kind of important for a Christmas story, even one where you're subverting Christmas. Just some guy had it right in his review. This show is just ugly. But it's not just what's within the show that's ugly, it's everything about this show that's ugly. It truly encapsulates everything wrong with Hollywood. Earlier today, I was discussing the marketing campaign of this show, and was it planned? Did they expect this type of response, or more importantly, want this type of response to create division, get people arguing online, and they get a bunch of free hype for their show? And I think, yes, partially that is true. Bounding into Comics has an article on this very subject. Santa Inc. is getting wrecked, and that's the goal. By every available metric, Santa Inc. seems destined to go down in history as the Hindenburg of far-left pseudo-comedy. The new HBO Max series has been thoroughly excoriated on Rotten Tomatoes, with just 3% of viewers finding it favorable. Actors Seth Rogen and Sarah Silverman, adult pretenders, have responded exactly as expected, almost on cue. While I fully believe they had that white supremacist bullet loaded, cocked, and ready to shoot like they were Alec Baldwin on the set of a Western, but it was still risky because I'm not sure anyone would have noticed if it wasn't for Chris Gore telling Ryan Kinnell to take a look at this trailer. He made a video, then we covered it on Friday Night Tights, then the Quartering covered it, and Jeremy at Geeks and Gamers, and it was off to the races. Then we got this response from Seth Rogen, well-known alpha male. We really pissed off tens of thousands of white supremacists with our new show, Santa Inc., that really does look like Satan Inc., which is now available on HBO Max. Please read the responses to this tweet for confirmation. No, they didn't miss a single opportunity to push that false white supremacist narrative along with all the other leftist talking points multiple times, including one character being a Yahtzee. The inevitable blowback to Santa Inc. feels like it was anticipated by Seth Rogen and his ilk from the word go. The meltdown felt pre-scripted, almost as if Rogen knew it was going to come. In fact, the unwillingness of critics to score a single episode as per the date of this article is probably the only thing Rogen really didn't see coming. No, I disagree with a lot of that. So the question is, why make a show like this in the first place? The answer to that question is easy. Christmas is brilliant. It's wholesome, and it's also one more traditional thing that needs to be torn down by the very divisive, destructive, and ungrateful Hollywood that used to be known for entertaining people. Bounding into comics adds, it's simple. The left are trying to convince themselves that social justice issues they whine about on a daily basis actually exist. Their determination to find white supremacy wherever it may lurk is akin to Indiana Jones staring down thousands-year-old death traps in ancient ruins to acquire coveted golden idols. No feat is too perilous, and no stone is to be left unturned. Yet, when the search turns up dry, these same deranged activists cannot cope with the empty-handedness. While I don't believe this was built into the marketing of Santa Inc. specifically from the start, I think this is just their natural response to all criticism because these people have fragile egos. So if you want some good news, know that this does bother them as much as they pretend it doesn't. But what may bother a few of you out there, and it definitely bothers me, is that the Seth Rogans and the Sarah Silvermans of the world are perfectly willing to push a false white supremacist narrative to sell their crappy product. Now, I'm happy to sit through a bunch of crap to save you your valuable time. I know you are busy, you're out running your lives and help running this country, and I thank you for it. But some people might argue that so many of us making these videos might bring some unnecessary attention and make it seem successful. I don't think there's any danger of that happening in this case because it really is that bad. And I think this is necessary attention because it really shows you how ugly Hollywood can be. Now, it turns out a few people did go out and watch this show. Very few of them made it past the first episode. Let's go to Rotten Tomatoes. Jorge 20C. Half star on Rotten Tomatoes. Animation is okay, but I found the rest not funny. I actually find it very racist and it sends misguided messaging. Well, there are some racial stereotypes in this, but honestly, and I don't care how bad this sounds, that's not the thing that bothered me at all. I think we need to make fun of just about everything. I just also think we need to be funny. Deshwan W. for a half star. Lazy, predictable, and boring, Santa Inc. struggles to find its audience. Who exactly is this show meant for? And I did discuss that. People that call the HOA to report Christmas lights and who also ask to speak to the manager at Applebee's. One cringeworthy moment after another without end. I genuinely feel embarrassed for everyone who worked on this show, and they should be embarrassed. I agree with you, Deshwan. Phil S. half star. When I was younger, comedies were funny because they were a way to forget the stresses of everyday life. It was a zone with very little boundaries, a zone where people put down their guard and just laughed. Santa Inc. had the potential to be funny if it didn't fall into the same nauseating path that intends to either make you feel bad for being you or panders to an array of spineless sheeple. The producers of Santa Inc. set out to crap on Christmas, but I don't think they intended to have a cultural moment on their hands and this much backlash, so I'm glad it exists because Santa Inc. is everything wrong with Hollywood, and this will be my one and only video on this subject because I'm going to go out and enjoy Christmas. You know, Hollywood used to make some pretty damn good Christmas films, and I could recommend one to Sarah Silverman and Seth Rogen, White Christmas. If you like what you heard, please like, share, and subscribe. If you didn't like what you heard, I thank you for listening this long. I will see you in the next video, and Merry Christmas.
Nerdrotic.com. Please subscribe.